Okay, so good evening from here from Oman. It's actually evening time right now. My name is Jawaher Al-Zeidi. I am a lecturer in University of Technology and Applied Science in Muscat, and I am happy actually to present this presentation in this international conference. Thank you for the organizing committee. My presentation is about empowering learners through collaborative assessment development. And to start with, let's give an outline about the presentation. So I will start with a short introduction, and then I will highlight both the principles and the benefits of two important approaches, which is collaborative learning and student center. Then I will give an overview of the implementation that we are doing actually in the General Foundation program. And finally, I will conclude with the challenges and limitations that we are actually facing. To start with, now we are actually highlighting this collaborative assignment in just a way, trying to make our students in the university more active, because as you all know that the new generation is kind of more like depending on their, let's say, devices. They don't like to interact a lot inside the classroom. So we are trying just to motivate this interaction by using collaborative assessment, in which actually that the educators and the students are actually working together to create assignments that reflect the interests, needs, and learning objective of the students. Now, creating an assignment could be something like new in our university as for students, because students normally receive the assignments from the teachers. But in this presentation, I will just talk about how we are actually working together in order to make the students actually part of the assessment creation. This approach actually fosters a sense of ownership and investment in the learning process. Ownership in terms that the students actually feel more involved, plus investment in the learning process. They are learning, and also they are making other students learning in the coming semesters, because we are actually using their own. So the importance actually highlighted the student-centered approach, where itself actually giving an involvement in for the students actually in the assignment development. So educators can create more relevant and meaningful learning experience. Now, this is actually one of the most important aspect and approach that we are focusing on, but in the same time, it is actually some of the challenges that we are actually facing, because we are teaching skills as in the foundation program, and it is actually difficult to, let's say, imply the student-centered approach. So we'll talk about the collaborative learning practices, the principles, and the benefits. So the key principles actually of the collaborative learning is interdependence, where actually in one group, students feel the importance of other students as well. So it's not only that they are doing it themselves, but also they need to know that whatever work or job that they are doing, it's actually affecting the other group. And also it is for their individual accountability, because everybody should participate actually in this collaborative learning, which comes to the group processing itself, where exactly that the final project of this assessment or generating questions is looked at a group processing. And this actually highlighted the role of the students' agency in learning, in which students are taking initiatives, plus they are setting goals, and they are engaged actively in the learning process, in which that they need to submit their final project. It could be a question, or it could be a certain type of assessment that they are participating in a very nice and effective way. This highlights the participation approach where, in fact, enhance engagement, promote critical thinking, and foster a sense of community among learners. So with this comes back to the benefits of collaborative learning, where student participation is important. So by doing so, there are active involvement of students, which promotes engagement. And it gives also ownership in learning, because the assignment that they are providing, the assignment that they are creating, it's actually their own. So it's empower the learners to take responsibility later on in their journey and enhancing motivation. Students think that if they are able to participate in the assessment, creating the assessment, definitely this will enhance their lifelong skill in their educational journey. It improves also the critical thinking development, where all of these collaboration actually encourage students to think critically and reflect on their learning, trying to improve the assessment that they are providing, plus trying to think out of the box somehow to make sure that their product is somehow valuable. And this is actually increase the engagement throughout all of the collaboration. Talking about this collaborative environment, it ends up having the inclusive learning practices where integrating diverse students' viewpoints, which create a richer educational experience. And in fact, this also creates a responsive course design where, in fact, creators can adapt curricula based on the students' feedback for better alignments and needs. And it gives a little bit of transparency in education, which were like clearly communication between students and educators foster the trust and collaboration. We find out after implementing these collaborative work that the most percentage is actually goes to the stronger conceptual understanding. So if you are giving an assignment to the students and then you are asking them to create the assignment for their peers, it actually means that they need to go and read or write or actually listen a lot in a certain topic that will actually improve the contextual understanding of a certain topic. I'm talking about the skills since that we are actually teaching these skills. So stronger conceptual understanding, and this will also increase their engagement, leading to enhancing their motivations, which actually lead to a very productive learning environment. Then, highlighting the student-centered approach, we find out, although the student-centered approach is somehow challenging, as I said before, in teaching the skills, but also by making the students actually collaborating and designing the assignments, this is actually part of the student-centered approach because the students are actually the prioritized or the one that they are doing the action over here. So we find out that these actually strengthen the students' motivation in terms of students-driven learning, because involving students in assessment design actually foster engagement, motivation, it has the ownership, learners lead a sense of ownership and responsibility towards the education, plus the critical thinking development and the collaborative learning. And this also leads, just like the collaborative, the student center leads to inclusive learning practices, empowered learning communities, and the transparent evaluation process. And in terms of evaluation over here, because the students are actually part of creating the assessment, they are part of evaluation, so they know exactly the criteria that the educators are actually putting for each assessment. So this actually gives a very sense of transparent evaluation process. Plus, there is actually an integrating peer-informed resources. In other words, the resources development. So students contribute to the creation of learning materials, enhancing their ownership. It's not only ownership, but also they feel proud of themselves that these materials are going to be used in the other semesters. It could be for 1 or 2 semesters, and this is actually enhancing the resource development, making the students more autonomous learning, and this is actually promote self-direct educational journey. And all of these collaborative resources utilization actually leads to deeper connection and understanding of the course materials. We found out that from the student-centered approach that student engagement are actually noticed very well, plus the conceptual understanding, which were exactly what we are actually looking for. Okay, after describing all of the principles and the benefits of collaborative and student-centered approach, let me highlight the implementation in the General Foundation program. So this implementation was done through the 4 skills of English, and these students are actually in the foundation program. And the foundation program is the first year of the students where actually they have to study the English skills as a requirement in order to complete their own studies. And normally we have a different level of students, and such in this generation, students are actually less motivated because this is their second language, actually, not their native or the first language. So the implementation was like in reading, for example, we asked students to take the second text from the book, the materials that we are actually using, and create or design exam questions. We provide them with the template of the reading exam question that will appear in midterm and in the final exam. And then we ask them to create a similar questions from the reading text that we are actually using inside the classroom. And these actually reading questions were actually used in the Teams. If you know the Microsoft Teams, where actually we are conducting some online classes, and there are a certain channel to upload all of these questions. At the beginning, in the first few weeks, students were only like relying on their own skill of writing or making or designing these questions. Later on, we have implemented an AI platform called ToolPath, in which students can use this question to generate questions. And in fact, this AI question generator helps students a lot in fixing their grammar, vocabulary, and sentence structure. But unfortunately, it doesn't give all of the sample of the questions that appears in the final or midterm exam. Therefore, plus with the AI, they still need to rely on themselves, highlighting their interactive ownership and group work. Similarly, in the writing classes, actually students are also asking to form exam questions. We provide them with samples and we ask them to take every single unit that we are studying and form an essay question. Different type of essay question. It could be agree and disagree, it could be problem and solution. And here students are actually using their critical thinking, trying to come out with some ideas that actually reflect the units that they are having. In listening, which was a little bit more challenging, we have provided the tracks from the books itself to make it more unified, and we are also providing tracks from outside the learning materials. We ask the students to listen as many times as they can, and then to come up with the similar questions that we have in the midterm and the final exam. It was a little bit challenging over here because we didn't provide the students with the transcript, Therefore, the students need to practice, therefore the students need to listen for many times as they could. And this was a good practice. This is our aim, actually, to make them listen as much as they can to improve their listening skills. Plus, they are going also to write the questions. It is actually considered of 25 questions similar to the exam questions. And those are some questions that they have to submit through the team's assignment. And also, as a teachers and educators, we have to go through these questions and make sure that they are actually good questions. We need to check grammar, vocabulary, sentence structure, and the answers as well. Speaking is also used here in the implementation of this collaborative work. And we have already asked the students to have some speaking topics similar to the final, plus that we are actually providing them with the samples. So each unit in our course book, students are actually participating in generating assessment similar to the midterm and the final exam. This implementation actually helped a lot in making the students more involved inside the classroom. Outside the classroom, they feel of this ownership kind of assessment, that this is their own assessment, and this assessment is actually used in front of their peers inside the classroom. Plus, those assessments will be added to the supplementary materials that we are actually having to be used in the second or next semesters. So students actually motivated a lot to participate in all of these designing exam questions in the 4 skills. And it shows a very good effect and positive impact in their midterm exams. We are still having the final exams next week, so I'm actually looking forward to see their final exam marks. In fact, implementing this comes back to or provide some challenges, and these challenges are actually the students' level. So students, actually, this is their first year in college, and most of them are coming from different backgrounds, from different regions in our Sultanate, and their level of English is actually various. So we have lots of students who actually are good in listening, but they are not actually participating. They are feeling shy because it's their first time to be in a college, which actually with mixed gender. So this challenge, this difficulties actually has challenged us in implementing this approach. Also, time constraints. The semester is only like 14 weeks plus the exams, and every class is 1 hour 40 minutes. And as an educator, we have to go back and check the assessment or the assignment that the students are actually providing. And in order to be to make sure that there are no vocabulary, spelling, grammar, or sentence structure mistakes. So this takes lots of time. And this is also a kind of challenge, especially following up, making the students fixing or editing their own assignment. Using AI platform actually was a challenge because we were looking for kind of a free AI platforms. And this is actually difficult because we don't want the students to pay since their first year. So this was a little bit difficult, but we could actually find some AI platforms for generating questions, especially for reading. There are some limitations because of the number of students participated in this research, because we have only like 20 students in every class, and we are having only 2 classes, so it's a maximum of 40. But this actually research is going to continue until the coming 2 semesters to see exactly the impact of this research. And actually, as I said, that the length of semester is a little bit shorter to indicate and to do all of these collaborative, especially if we need time to introduce it, we need time to show the student sampling, we need time to follow up and checking and editing all of these assessments. But overall, the impact that I have seen on my students' lifelong learning goals, involvement, motivation, plus their midterm exams is actually a positive impact, which encourages us to continue with this action research in the coming 2 semesters to know exactly or to highlight the key findings of this research. I have come to the conclusion of my presentation. I wish it was fruitful for all of you. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I am glad to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. Jawaher. If anyone has any question, they can raise their hand. As there are no questions, we will move to our further segment. So let's move to our next segment. We would like to briefly acknowledge the presenters whose research contributions have enriched today's conference. So the presentation guidelines are each presenter gets 10 minutes followed by question and answer. Keep your camera on and mute when not speaking. Use the official conference background. Keep the slides clear, concise, and visually engaging. Answer the questions from the chat box or during the question and answer section. So I would like to invite Mr. Samir Khalid.